All right, Tom, save this. Give me an ACC dark horse.
Oh, wow. Okay, I'm going first, and I'm going way down the board, okay? Don't
Okay.
worry. I know neither one of you have picked this team, but we want a dark horse. We want a team that nobody sees coming. And there's a team that nobody sees coming that I've found. Who's the Virginia Cavaliers? Bear with me.
I'm Baron.
95-1 to win the ACC.
Woo.
25-1 to make the college football playoff. We'll start with the schedule. You know who's not on it? Clemson.
A lot of the top dogs.
Miami. There's no Notre Dame. They do get Florida State, but it's at home. They've got to play Louisville on the road. I would argue Louisville is their toughest road game. If you want to argue it's North Carolina, Duke, or NC State, I'll let you argue it. I won't fight too hard against it. But either way, comparatively, it's a pretty easy conference schedule. And the other part of this is, like, Virginia completely overhauled its roster in the portal. They had a huge transfer portal class, and there are some good players in there. Like, there were some former 4-stars in high school. There's been some productive guys elsewhere. They've got Chandler Morris at quarterback, who is like 35 years old at this point. And we have seen 35-year-old quarterbacks have helped lead teams to, seasons that were unexpected. So I think that this is a case where there's so much volatility where this team could go 2-10, and I wouldn't be shocked. But we've seen it before. Like, if the transfer class clicks and things hit and that schedule has worked, if we think like last year, SMU got to the ACC championship and so did Clemson, and Clemson had, multiple losses. It's not insane to think that a 6-2 team can get to the ACC championship game. Virginia can be that 6-2 team if everything goes to order. So, I mean, they could be this year's Syracuse. They could be in the hunt.
2019, Virginia had under Bronco did make the ACC championship game, and if I remember correctly, that was a 6-2 with the right wins and the right draw kind of schedule. I will say that Virginia you make a compelling case. I don't know if I've got Virginia rated at the quality of being able to really jump up here. I do think that you've got a bowl team at Virginia. I think that you look at the steps forward last year, first top 25 win under Tony Elliott was last year. Saw an improvement in the win total from last year. I mean, it combine it with the softer schedule draw, especially in conference play. I mean, the NC State game is a non-conference game.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a favorable,
Yep.
They played Tennessee last year. They got their doors blown off by Tennessee in their non-con, and we're trading that for a nice trip from Charlottesville to Raleigh. It'll be hot, but still, this is something where I could definitely see I agree with you. I'm predicting an improvement in the win total, but it seems to me a little bit more of like a 6-6. And I like your high flyer, but I'm a pause. I just don't know if the quality is there quite yet for Virginia to jump up into that 9-win flirting with the ACC title game type spot.
That's also why, like, value-wise, again, I'm not recommending anybody bets this. It's just really good for dark horses. But I would rather bet Virginia 95-1 to win the ACC than 25-1 to get to the playoff, because I don't see any path where Virginia gets in as an at-large without winning the conference. So just take the 95-1 instead of the 25.
You don't think they can go like 11-2?
They could, but I feel like
12-1 and lose the conference.
I'd still rather have the 95-1, because at least then I can hedge when they get to the ACC championship game.
That's true.
But I want you to just sit for maybe a half second and think about what you suggested, that this Virginia Cavaliers football team is 12-1.
Bud sees the path. He knows it's there.
I love the logic on this. I do. I think the differential in schedule quality in the ACC from top to bottom is probably the largest in any of the Power 4 leagues. The schedule really matters in the ACC.
Fair.
Most everybody has a tough schedule in the SEC. Most everybody has a tough one in the Big 10. Most everybody has an easy one in the Big 12 as far as like avoiding big time teams. But in the ACC, some do and some do not. And like not having to play Clemson, not having to play Miami, they don't have to play SMU. There's certainly a path here, man. This is a like you also, I mean, you don't play Georgia Tech?
Nope.
No, I don't think so. Yeah.
I mean, think about what the bottom of some of these teams is. Is Brent Pry coaching the Hokies on November 29th? I don't think so. Like, would you give me, if you give me any kind of plus odds that he's still coaching in that game, I'm taking him. Right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Now, I think at Duke is pretty tough, actually. Florida State, we'll see, but like, are they favored over FSU in Charlottesville? Probably not, but like, they're not dogs of like 10.
No, they're in there.
They're probably sizable dogs at Louisville. I mean, other than that, is that a short rest road trip to No, because October is 31 days. Never mind.
Yep.
I guess we'll see what Wake is.
Yeah, I mean, if we're going to talk about travel here, you are in Chapel Hill, you fly out to Berkeley, you come back and you host Wake, and you could argue that those are all bottom half ACC teams, but I still think that'll be a challenge.
Haters.
I agree, because you're still Virginia and you're not that talented. Like that's the thing here. But yeah, there's not many games on the schedule where you're a clear dog.
Yeah. All right, Bud.
Not many conference games.
Where do you want to take the attention?
So I'm going to go up the odds board just slightly, but we said like none of the top dogs, right? So give me Duke. I am not going to dog this kid, but Duke's former quarterback is one of the counselors out here. And seeing some of the accuracy stuff that he's put on display out here, and super nice guy, I'm very confident they upgraded in a major with Jerry Mensah, to be honest. I'm like, okay.
So you're saying that he's a counselor in the do as I say, not as I do vein?
Kind of. Like, man, some of these misses are just oof. But yeah, I think Duke is probably still pretty damn good defensively. I think that's a really nice coaching staff. I think Manny Diaz is a hell of a coach. Brewer's a really nice coach. And obviously that defense probably still going to be a pain in the ass to play. Now, they won a lot of close games last year. So they could be a better team than last year and still have a worse record. I think that's actually probably pretty likely. But there is a scenario here in which they go 7-1 in the league. Like if Mensah is really that guy.
So as you're starting to angle this here, I like Duke with your you get into the ACC championship game type dark horse path. I think Illinois and Tulane's a tough non-con schedule.
Totally. Yeah.
Illinois by 40.
Although Tulane, I mean, you just took Tulane's quarterback.
If you're going to draw it up, I mean, Duke has had much easier. Duke has had easier non-conference schedules than that in the past.
I agree. But the conference schedule, they have not had more favorable than this, I don't think. I love that the Clemson game is on the road because they're not wasting one of their home games in a game that is, almost certainly a sure loss. I think they're a better team than Wake. I definitely think they're a better team than Carolina, but that's at Carolina. Virginia, I don't think is good. I just think Virginia has a good schedule. Georgia Tech at home is certainly not easy, but I'd be a little surprised if Tech is better than what they were last year. I do think there are certain teams in each season that just have like amazing chemistry and vibes and just play for each other. And I think that is hard to replicate in this era year to year. Now, I know Tech is not subject to as many guys transferring out as some of the other teams because of the fact that they have really good academics, and a lot of the guys who go to Tech actually care about staying at Tech and getting a degree. But they're probably favored at home over NC State. I think they're favored at Syracuse. I think they're probably a small favorite at Cal. Georgia Tech, that's probably coin flippy at home. Clemson, they're a massive dog. Virginia, they're favored at North Carolina. We will see. Like, is Belichick even coaching Carolina at that point?
Yes. Easy.
Okay. All right. And then, Chip would know better than me. I'm just bringing it up.
Depends if Jordan lets him.
Yeah, I mean,
and Wake certainly does not have great depth.
Remember when everybody was kicking and screaming about the June 1 buyout that drop, and as though that was
right.
You can literally say anything. Words don't matter when it comes to Bill Belichick and many more things. But so
if I got to pick some really down ballot stuff, I did actually think about UVA just because the schedule was like that easy, and I'm glad Tom had it because that was my other one here. But I mean, this Duke schedule is pretty nice. There's some 30-1s out there that I don't totally hate, I guess.
Here's what I'm most intrigued by when it comes to Duke. Number one, you mentioned it. They were 5-1 in one-score games last year. So people who like to play the regression game would say that maybe a few of those are going to flip the other direction. I am both encouraged by the way that Manny Diaz and this staff were able to, based on everything that I've been able to gather, like really build up I hate the word, but it's culture. Like he really has this team in a place where.
Why do you hate the word culture?
Well, because I think it gets overused and I think it sometimes gets misused, but I don't have another better way for to describe the way he's been able to take a mentality and he's been able to instill it in Duke football. I loved it too. They were saying we want to drag you into the sewer, like we want to make life painful. And the idea that Duke football is going to be able to win games on the margins, like that's how Duke football competes against these other large public state schools with a very different recruiting profile. So I get it all. Like I think it totally makes sense. They lost some important skill players. And I think that the path to replacing them is going to maybe include leaning on young guys. So offensively, for Darian Mensah to have the tools around him to be really successful, I agree with you. Jonathan Brewer, really good coach, but they will need some players, some young players to step up to be able to have that happen. So I'll be keeping an eye on that, especially in the early season schedule and games against Illinois and Tulane. But yeah, I think it's the kind of team right now that I actually do think they can win more one-score and coin flip games than the average team because it's just what they do.
Need an on-3 graphic of Chip and that just says anti-culture.
No, I'm actually going hard on culture. I spent too much time in the data last year. I'm just going back full knuckle draggy this year. That's the Chipalytics are the arts and science, and the balance has to swing back and forth.
But
so
were there any like different results in the end?
What?
Like in your locks record compared to
I think
let's see, last year, just being Johnny Data, you were 97 and 87. Yeah, no, I think that was definitely better than the year before when you went.
Chip crushed last year.
Yeah. Oh yeah, definitely. You should stick to the data, bro. Because when you were just knuckle dragging in 2023, you were 57 and 63.
All right. Well, what a better time to kick the data to the side on this next one. My ACC dark horse is the Pitt Panthers because this is year 2 of Cade Bell putting in that wild Western Carolina offense. And you may remember he brought with him a bunch of players from Western Carolina, among them running back Desmond Reed, who was one of the top all-purpose backs in the entire country last year. And Desmond Reed's been talking to reporters and sort of getting the word out that he was at Western Carolina when Cade Bell first got there, and he saw the year 1 to year 2 jump. He saw the offense get faster. He saw the offense also get more productive. And he thinks that this Pitt offense, as we go into year 2 with Cade Bell, is going to play faster, and they are going to get more productive. Now, damn, they need better injury luck along the offensive line, because I'll tell you what an up-tempo offense cannot have is just bleeding out depth at the lines of scrimmage. I don't know if you guys remember the Clemson-Pitt game last year. Both teams were down maybe 3 or 4 offensive line starters. Neither team could move the football, and that was when Cade Klubnik just ended the game, thankfully for everyone, with a 60-yard touchdown run. Pitt needs to be able to stay healthy along the offensive line for that offense to be able to work. Kyle Lewis is back, just a really, really solid all-conference, all-American caliber player on the defensive side of the ball. They've gone into the portal to be able to help beef up the depth along the lines of scrimmage. And so when I'm looking at Pitt, I'm like, okay, I think that the offense can still be really good. Like, was it a little bit of an overreaction when they got off to the 7-0 start? Yes. But would it be an overreaction to just sell all the stock because of the 6-game losing streak to finish? I think also yes. So the Pitt path from a dark horse perspective for me, is going to be in the ACC championship market, similar to what you were talking about with the Virginia or Duke. The idea that they could get through this schedule with a record that would be able to get them into the ACC championship game. Because when you've got Notre Dame in the non-con, and look, I think they'll beat West Virginia in the backyard brawl, but that is going to be a wild environment early in the year. Rich Rod obviously trying to pull all the levers that he can to score a big win with the people who brought him back. But chalk me down. I think the Pitt Panthers are going to be feisty, sniffing around maybe a 9 or 10 win season at the end of the year.
Woo. That'd be something, man.
I don't hate it. I don't love it.
I am sort of kind of committed to being I'm not like, I like Narduzzi a lot. I like Pitt's program. I just, for like 6 or 7 weeks, I was basically saying, hey, that this Holstein story is Cinderella. He's going to turn back into a pumpkin sooner or later. And then he finally did. So I'm going to need to see him turn back into Cinderella actually the carriage turns into a pumpkin. Obviously Cinderella doesn't. So I'm going to need to see him turn back into that pretty carriage before I really jump on the Pitt train this year. But I mean, it's possible, certainly. What does FanDuel have them to win 10 games? Because that would be, I know they have the odds.
All right. So are those markets?
8-1.
Are those markets for? Do they count the bowl game?
Definitely not.
Okay. So as I was imagining it, I've got them losing 3-4 regular season, and I was sniffing 9-10 with the idea that you're not going to lose to a MAC team in Ford Field in your bowl game, which was the insult to injury of the 6-game losing streak. Just you got burned by Matt Candle in Ford Field. It's not the way you want your season to end. But this is how Pitt gets back on the right foot. I would not say 10-2. That is beyond what I'm willing to do, even in my most bullish outlook for the Pitt Panthers this year. All right. So also on my list before we hit a break and pivot to the Big 12, I had Georgia Tech, which doesn't seem like it's that much of a dark horse or a stretch.
I didn't qualify them.
Yeah.
Because there's if you look at the odds, like they're the last team before there's like a really steep drop off to everybody else.
And they are also Georgia Tech. Georgia Tech, if I remember the odds board correctly, is kind of in the Michigan position where there's a drop down to Georgia Tech and then a big drop after that. So it didn't feel like it was enough of a dark horse, but I mean, winnable spots. They could have a 6-2 conference record. I at least wanted to, again, not a dark horse, but no, Haynes King, Georgia Tech, they're probably not surprising anybody this year after last season, but definitely a quality team that I'm excited to watch play.
The problem Brent Key and Georgia Tech face in ACC play is that they're never going to be playing a top 10 team every week.
Because that's what Brent Key does.
Those are the games they win. And then they're going to play like the Boston Colleges of the world, and they're going to lose.
Okay. And then the other one here, a lot of okay. So Brad in the tailgate, I like Georgia Tech over 7.5. Solid dark horse program headed in the right direction. Here we go. And then Ian, is Florida State a dark horse to finish in the top half of the conference?
No.
What? Are they a dark horse to finish in the top half of the conference?
No, and I think they are expected to finish in the top half of the conference.
I think Ian's just trolling.
Yeah, they could finish in the top half of the conference.
What is the ceiling? I also, again, I had Florida State because I've got the path for Florida State.
I guess in theory, you can spend me some fantasy that Castellano stays healthy for 12 games and that you're able to run him the amount that you need to run him to be really competitive in those games.
November. It's like that's the thing when I look at Florida State's schedule is being able to hold everything together on into November. And you mentioned the health. That's just going to be such a huge part of them being able to do it, because whether you're betting the win total, whether you've got an ACC future, it is that NC State game. It is that Virginia Tech game. It is that Florida game. Those are games Florida State could win, But if they are falling apart, if they're banged up and they're just limping to the finish line, those could be 3 losses as well. So being able to hold that thing together, you got Clemson before that. Miami game is a big swing here. I
think the most important game of the year is Virginia.
Wow. Okay.
Like, I don't think that you're real competitive in your 4 tough games, to be honest. I don't think that, like, Norvell's not done a good job recruiting high school. Obviously, the portal didn't go well for them this year. I don't expect them to beat Alabama. They got nothing done in spring on the offensive side because they had so many guys banged up. So their install is going to be pretty quick in fall. Like, you can do the mental install you want, but you still need to play next to the guys you're playing with. So I think if you lose to Virginia, then they have serious talks about getting the buyout money ready. If you lose to Virginia, then you there's a good chance you don't make a bowl.
If only
that's the one you got to get, that road game right there.
If only a young Danny Kanell realized in 1995 that Virginia was a must-win game.
Like, you probably won't lose at Stanford, right? That's still like a pain in the ass trip to go make, but
that is bleak. And look, I know.
I think you bring in Malzahn as a floor hire to not get fired. I don't think that raises your ceiling at all.
Oh, I'd agree with that. I get the sense that, from operating from your position, you almost have to play the reality check to a lot of Florida State fans. But I just want to just isolate it even among Cover 3 friends and family here. It is a bleak position that when looking at Florida State going into the season, the phrase, the gotta have it game is at Virginia.
Yeah.
It's bleak. I mean, I think Florida State beats Virginia. I think Florida State should not be concerned about playing at Stanford against Frank Reich and a fully transitional Stanford roster. Like,
if you lose that Virginia game, they quit on Norvell last year, right? I can absolutely see a lot of these same guys could quit on him again. So if you get the Virginia game, I think you feel really good about making a bowl. If you lose that early, then you're going to be sitting there at 2-2 with wins over East Texas A&M and Kent State, which is a worse team than many FCS schools. Then you get Miami coming to town.
See, I think they could be 6-2 in their first 8 games heading to Clemson.
Totally possible. Yes. I think the good version of this team probably is 6-2.
Okay. I think that this is this is a wild position for Florida State to be in.
Their win total is what? 7, juice way under?
Yeah, 7.5, juice under.
Like the markets, and the juice is like 250. Like, that's really reading that's reading like a 6.5. I've got it going 6-6 right now, to be honest.
Wow.
I don't think they're I don't think that they're. I'm not picking the win at NC State. Are you going to sweep at Virginia, Pitt, and Virginia Tech? I doubt it.
Yeah, I know you're losing to Pitt, but yeah, you'll win the other 2.
Yeah.
Man. Yep. So that's that is your question. I think that this is ultimately in the conference standings. Yes, a top half team. Overall win total, they're hurt because they play Alabama and Florida. But yeah, Florida State in a very interesting position heading in to 2025.